Welcome to Vysh IAS. So we'll be continuing with the Plums series of Polity Governance and Schemes today. Okay, so if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing this channel so that you will be getting daily free updates on UPSC. And if you're looking for a good quality test series, then you can contact the number which is given on the screen 7200681675. Okay. So let's move on to the first question. The first question reads, consider the following: 1. Untouchability, 2. Scheduled caste, 3. Religious minorities, and 4th martial law. And the question is asking which of the above terms have been defined in the Indian Constitution. Okay, questions like this are very frequently asked in UPSC Prelims. They will pick up some terms, some random terms will be taken like this and stated, and they will ask you whether these terms are mentioned in the constitution, whether these terms are defined in the constitution. So the question, you have to pay clear attention to the question whether it is asking about mention or define. Okay, if it is asking about mentioned, most of the times all the terms will be mentioned somewhere in the constitution, but definition, it is not for all the terminologies. Most of the terms, it won't be defined in constitution, and that is also a criticism which you can write in GS2 mains. Okay, so here the question is asking about definition, which of the following terms are defined. So the scope of the question is coming narrow. More probability or more chances are there these terms are not defined. Even if they are mentioned, it won't be defined only. Okay, so first statement, untouchability. Untouchability, it is mentioned in Constitution in Article 17 Fundamental Rights, but it is not defined anywhere in the Constitution. Okay, then second, martial law. Same with the case of untouchability, it is not defined, but it is mentioned somewhere. Okay, so under extraordinary circumstances like war, insurrection, invasion, rebellion. Okay, under these circumstances, actually martial law is imposed. Okay, so it is having some mention, but it is not defined. Then religious minorities, it is also not defined, but it is used in Article 29 and 30 with reference to fundamental rights. Then next term is scheduled caste. Scheduled caste is also not defined. Okay, only the provisions for establishing a community as a scheduled caste is defined. Okay, so if the question is asking like the provisions for scheduled caste establishment are mentioned in Constitution, you can tick yes. But whenever the scope of the question is definition, the answer is also going to be very narrow. Most of the terms are not defined in the Constitution. Okay, if you have to take a neutral stand, or if you are facing problems, I haven't covered this topic and I don't know much about this topic, and even if you have to attempt that question, you can take this stand. Most of the terms, it won't be defined in the Constitution. Okay, so the answer comes out to be D, none of the above. Now come to the second question. Which of the following statements are correct in the Indian context? So A reads, laws made by the Parliament for the admission or establishment of new states are not to be considered as amendments of the Constitution under 368. Then B reads, the Indian territory can be ceded to a foreign territory by an executive action and does not require a constitutional amendment. And C reads, the settlement of boundary dispute between India and another country requires amending the Constitution under Article 368. And D states none of these are correct. So if you have a clear idea about that Article 1 to 4, you can easily attempt this question. And most of the students, they neglect this portion, but questions can be asked like this way from this part also. Okay, so if you look at Article 4 of Indian Constitution, Article number 4, it itself declares that the laws made for admission or establishment of new states, okay, and formation of the new states and alteration of areas, boundaries, or the names of existing states. Okay, I'm telling about Article number 2 and 3. In Article number 4, it is stating that Article number 2 and 3, they are not considered as amendments of the Constitution. That means Article 2 and 3 doesn't come under Article 368. So today's homework, you have to go and brush up those portions. What is Article number 1 to 4? That you have to be very clear. Okay. So what this means? So Article number 4 is telling that such laws can be passed by a simple majority and by ordinary legislative process. Whatever process we are following for ordinary legislation, that can be followed. So the A statement is correct. Then what are the problems in the B, C and D? Okay, So Indian territory, it can be ceded to a foreign territory only by a constitutional amendment. With respect to that external amendments, external territory kind of thing, that would require a constitutional amendment. Okay, so that are those are coming under Article 368. And the statement, the B statement, it is reading like it can be ceded to a foreign territory by executive action. That is not true. Okay, executive action itself, it alone is not required. Actually, a constitutional amendment is required if an Indian territory has to be ceded to a foreign territory. Okay, so B is incorrect. Then next is the C statement. What is that? The settlement of boundary dispute in India and another country requires amending the constitution. Okay, so if you see, there is a ruling of Supreme Court in 1968, and the ruling was that the settlement of boundary dispute between India and another country, it doesn't require the constitutional amendment. So the boundary dispute kind of thing, it is not coming under Article 368. So those are not constitutional amendment. So today you have to go and brush up what are article number 1 to 4, what they are stating, and what are the procedures related to that, what is the role of president in establishment of new state and ceding of the territories, and you have to go and brush up what is the procedure of Article 368, constitutional amendment, Article 368, that you have to go and brush up, and what are the amendments which is not coming under Article 368. These are very important portions. Okay, so kindly go and please revise that portion. Okay, so statement C is also not correct. So correct answer comes out to be A. And the B column states popular name. Okay, so come to the first statement, Indira Gandhi Nehru case. It is fundamental rights case. Then second, Indira Shawni case, Mandal case. Third, Kihito Holohan case, defection case. And fourth, IR Coelho case, 9th schedule case. So the question is asking which of the above given pairs is or are correctly matched. Okay, this is also one important area. Earlier, UPSC used to ask these cases kind of thing only in mains. Okay, we used to quote the cases, main cases in UPSC mains. But recently they are asking questions from this area also in prelims. Okay, so in prelims also they are picking up some important cases and they are asking questions about it. So it is important for you to cover whatever cases that happened in the history of Supreme Court and some High Court, whatever national important, whatever cases which are nationally important, that you have to cover. Okay. So if you look at the first case, Indira Nehru Gandhi case, it is actually also known as election case. Okay, popularly it is known as election case also. So if the question it is asking about election case, you should be able to decode that it is stating something about Indira Nehru Gandhi case only. And in this case, some important judgment were given. If you need, you can note it down. So the first judgment was India is a sovereign democratic republic. So whenever the question is asking, whenever in GS2, whenever you get questions from preamble and all, no, so there you can quote this case also. I'm also telling the ways by which you can use the knowledge gained from prelims in mains also. Okay, so here first important judgment is the sovereign democratic republic nature of the Indian constitution was reiterated in this case. And the second important judgment was equality of status and opportunity of an individual. That was also a major highlight of this case. Then third is secularism and freedom of conscience and religion, government of laws and not of men. Okay, so two important statements, secularism and freedom of conscience and religion, that is one judgment. Then government of laws and not of men. What this is meaning? It is actually pointing to the statement rule of law. So rule of law was actually reiterated in this case. Then fourth is judicial review. Judicial review was stated as an important pillar of Indian constitution. Then fifth is free and fair elections, which is implied in democracy. That was also stated. So these are the 5 points which are related to the first case. So whenever you get questions relating to Indira Nehru Gandhi case, whenever these 5 statements, out of this, any of the statements, if it is given in the question, you can mark that statement as correct. Then next, Indira Sahani case. Indira Sahani case, it is mainly known as Mandal case also. Okay, here also rule of law as a basic structure was declared by Supreme Court. Okay, so here also rule of law was declared. So the same kind of thing, rule of law, it is having a correlation with Indira Nehru Gandhi case also. There also rule of law was stated. Here also it is stated. So that is not an issue. Whatever case you are taking, take some 5 important judgments from that case. That will be enough. Then third, Kehito-Holohan case. It is actually popularly known as defection case. Kehito-Holohan case, defection case. Here, free and fair elections was stated. Then sovereign democratic republican structure. It was also reiterated. These are the 2 points. Then come to the fourth one, IR Coelho case. It is popularly known as 9th schedule case. So here also rule of law was stated. Then separation of powers was stated here. Then the principles underlying fundamental rights. Then judicial review. Then the fifth one is principle of equality. So these 5 things were stated as the basic structure of Indian Constitution in IR Coelho case. So the same item like rule of law we have seen in 3 or 4 cases. So the same thing can be stated as a basic structure in 3 or more cases. Okay, so that is not an issue. Each case you can take some 5 important points and note it down and revise it. So that will be enough for you to answer the question. So the correct option comes out to be 2, 3 and 4 only. That is option number C. Now come to the next question. So the question is stating about asymmetric federalism. Again, these kind of terms are very important in UPSC. Okay, so whenever you see terms like constitutionalism, asymmetric federalism, separation of powers, division of powers, you have to be very clear what these concepts are actually. And there are another categories like doctrines are important, doctrines of Indian Constitution, doctrine of pith and substance, all those things. No, so whenever you get time, please glance through all these terminologies and make a comparative analysis. So let's move on to the question. Asymmetric federalism is an important characteristic of Indian political system. Which of the following provisions is or are related to it? So the first statement is governance of 5th and 6th schedule areas. Okay. Second statement, 2. Special provisions for states like Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, etc. Third is central government power to appoint governors. And fourth is central government power to appoint members of All India services. Okay, so if you have to attend this question, first of all, you have to make a clear idea about what is asymmetric federalism. So what is asymmetric federalism? Asymmetry means something unequal. Okay, so it is a federalism. It is simply a federalism which is based on unequal powers and relationships. In what areas? In political, administrative and fiscal arrangements. Between which units? The units of federalism. Which are the units of federalism? The center and the states. Those are the units of federalism. So between these units of federalism, you are having some unequal power distribution. That is actually meant by this statement. Okay. So different constituent states are possessing different powers. That can be stated as asymmetric federalism. So we can see a vertical level of inequality and also horizontal level of inequality. Okay, that also you should be clear. Like one or more of the states, they can have more importance than others. Okay, so even though they are having the same constitutional status, some states will be having some special powers. Okay, so the division of powers is not symmetric. Okay. So the first statement, governance of 5th and 6th schedule areas different from other states and more autonomy are given to those states. Okay. So here you can see a discrimination within the states. Okay, some states are positively discriminated from the others. This is an example of asymmetric federalism. So the second statement reads, special provisions are given to states like Gujarat and Andhra Pradesh. This is also the same kind as the first statement. In both the cases, we are treating some states as special. Okay, some states are treated specially from the other states. Okay, if you see 5th and 6th schedule, it is not applied to all the states. Some states are given, some states are covered in this 5th and 6th schedule. So they are having some important functions, or they are having some positive discrimination. They are having more autonomy. So we can say that the statement number 1 and 2 both are examples of asymmetric federalism. Come to the third statement. Third statement reads, central government power to appoint governors. Actually, this is a unitary feature of constitution. So it has nothing to do with asymmetric federalism. Please pay attention to this point. Okay, so even though in the first look you might think this is a correct statement, actually this is not correct. So central government power to appoint governors and the central government power to appoint members of All India services. The fourth statement I am reading. Okay, so both these 3 and 4, they are not actually examples of asymmetric federalism, but they are examples of unitary features of constitution. Okay, so in our constitution we are having some unitary features. Even though we are following a federal setup, we are having some unitary features. So out of that unitary features, the statement number 3 and 4 are two of the important unitary features. So the answer comes out to be 1 and 2 only. So option number B is the correct answer. Now come to the next question. So consider the following. First is marriage and divorce. Second is education. Third is forest. Fourth, census. And fifth, protection of wild animals and birds. Which of the above subjects are mentioned in the concurrent list of 7th schedule of Constitution? Okay. So this kind of questions are also important. They'll take the 7th schedule, and in the 7th schedule you are having 3 lists. Which are those lists? Union list, state list and concurrent list. So in all of these 3 lists, some important topics are mentioned. Although you don't have to cover all the topics which are mentioned in this list, you have to be aware of the important subject matters. Okay, important subject matters, some 10 to 15 will be there in every list, so that you have to be aware. Okay, even if you are not aware of anything, you have to cover some 10, at least 10 topics from each list. That will be important, that you have to be aware. So they'll ask like which of these topics are mentioned in concurrent list, which of these are mentioned in union list, like that question can be asked. Okay, so if you look at the first statement, marriage and divorce, it is actually stated in concurrent list only. So this is correct. So if you want, you can note down this point: marriage and divorce, then infants and minors, then adoption, wills, then succession, joint family, partition, all these items are stated in concurrent list only. Okay, then next item to concurrent list, if you can note down this point: prevention of cruelty to animals, then forest, protection of wild animals and birds, all these are also mentioned in concurrent list. What is concurrent list? Both the state and union can make laws in these items. Then third, education. Education is also an item in concurrent list only. So all these points, marriage, divorce, education, all these are important items, important entries in this list, so that you have to be aware. So you can actually go and check health as an item or health as an entry comes in which list. That is also important. Okay, so education, what kind of education? Technical education, medical education, universities, vocational, every kind of education, it is actually coming under the concurrent list. Okay, so all these are correct statements. Then come to the fourth, census. Census is not in concurrent list, but it is stated in union list. So this you can keep it as an exception. And in the union list itself, census is an important entry. So census, it is coming under union list. So it is not coming under the concurrent list. So the correct answer comes out to be 1, 2, 3 and 5. Okay. So option is there. That's the end of today's session. So we'll meet in the next week in the next episode. Until then, stay tuned. Thank you.